In news coming in, India is evacuating its diplomats from its consulate in Afghanistan's Mazar-e-Sharif city. A special flight is leaving from Mazar-e-Sharif to New Delhi late evening today. All Indian nationals in Afghanistan have been requested to leave for India in that special flight. The Indian External Affairs Ministry has requested all Indian citizens wanting to leave that part of Afghanistan to immediately submit their particulars, including their full name, passport number and date of expiry by sending a WhatsApp message at the numbers on the screen. For more on this, we are now being joined by our principal diplomatic correspondent, Siddhant Sibbal. Siddhant, thank you for joining us. What can you tell us about this latest development?
Well, the development comes even as India has brought back its diplomats from its consulate in Kandahar. Mazar is the second consulate from which India is bringing its diplomats back. We also know that India has announced that a special flight is leaving from Mazar-e-Sharif later this evening that is expected to bring back Indian nationals in Mazar-e-Sharif. We know that when it comes to Taliban, it has been making territorial gains, in fact, massive territorial gains, and several capitals of various provinces have fallen to Taliban, and it looks like Mazar-e-Sharif in the north is going to be the next target, and we could expect heavy fighting as well. In fact, WION is present in Mazar-e-Sharif. WION correspondent Anas Malik is in that part of Afghanistan, and when it comes to the situation developing, there is an increased concern. We know that India hosted a meeting on Afghanistan at the United Nations Security Council last week. It was led by the Indian envoy as the president of the United Nations Security Council, and we saw what the Afghan envoy had said. He clearly had blamed Pakistan for the current situation. He blamed at how there are a number of terror groups who are in a sense supporting Taliban in its current military offensive, and the situation which is coming from Afghanistan, the images which are coming from Afghanistan are clearly showing that how bad situation is. It looks like there is an eerie parallel to what happened in 1990s when Taliban make increased gains. That time, of course, we saw that Taliban concentrating in south of country. This time, Taliban is making gains both in the south and in the north. Mazar-e-Sharif, remember, is in north of country and borders the Central Asian region. So this is, of course, a worry for not only Central Asian republics, but also for Russia. Recently, we saw a number of Afghan soldiers crossing into Tajikistan, and that time Tajiks were, of course, not very happy with the development.
Right, Siddhant. We also know that a majority of the Indian nationals are engaged in developmental projects across Afghanistan. Now, I mentioned earlier that they have been asked to send their particulars if they want to leave Afghanistan right now. How do you see that situation unfolding? What are some of the measures that are in place, and what is the work that's being done to bring them back to India?
Well, as of now, there are 1,500 Indian nationals in Afghanistan involved in various development projects and various humanitarian works. Of course, Indian diplomats as well. And there always has been a plan B ready in terms of the situation deteriorating. And it looks like that plan B has now been operationalized in terms of the evacuation process. Mazar-e-Sharif, from Mazar-e-Sharif, the special flight is leaving. But also remember that India has a contingency plan for its diplomats, for its nationals in Afghanistan, in the national capital as well. Over the weekend, we saw how the Americans and the British announced that they requested their nationals to leave the country through commercial means as soon as possible. So that means that there is now an increased likelihood of the Taliban offensive gaining strength, and of course a counter-offensive by the Afghan government. But the worrisome factor is it's the civilians who are caught in the entire crossfire. There are deadly images coming from Afghanistan, especially children being impacted, and it looks like with the haphazard way with which Americans have withdrawn the country, it looks like that this situation was expected. But the big surprise which has come is that it has exceeded the expectations in terms of Taliban mounting its offensive even before the final withdrawal date. And also remember that while on the ground Taliban is making gains, there is increased violence level on the discussion table, on the talks table, which is happening in Doha. They are strategically going towards a delay tactic in terms of the conversation being delayed, intra-Afghan talks with the Afghan government, and they do have this certain confidence that they will be reaching to the gates of Kabul very soon.
Right, Siddhant, do stay with us. We're now being joined by Anas Malik. Anas, thank you for joining us. What can you tell us about the sentiment on ground?
The situation here is a bit tense. I was on the flight to Mazar Sharif a while back, and there was an unexpected delay in that flight earlier, and then the flight, the airline had to merge two flights in order to meet a number of certain passengers. A total of 61 passengers flew on a 400-plus capacity plane from Kabul to Mazar Sharif. There is a general sense of insecurity within the city. There are reports that they might impose a night curfew within the city. That means nobody would be allowed to step in or out of their houses or their accommodations after sunset. We saw that only 61 people were on that very plane. The airlines have doubled or in fact tripled their fares from Mazar Sharif to elsewhere within the country. This is how the situation is like on ground. Yes.
Right, Anas. Also, what can you tell us about the measures in place to get other Indian nationals out of Afghanistan?
Well, there are reports that India is planning to evacuate all of its nationals, as Siddhant had been pointing out. We have just arrived here, so the reports are a bit unclear because there is a bit of chaos within the city. As I said, there's general tension with regards to the mounting pressure of Taliban around the city. There is, as we speak, they haven't entered the city, but they are very, very close to the city. That is the reason there is a general sense of insecurity. We've seen army, we've seen militia as well. It is unclear of who the militia belongs to. Local people say that they can be from Ustad Atanur, the former governor of Balkh. They can be from them, from his side as well. But it would be a bit too early to say that because we're yet to assess the situation on ground. As I said, I just arrived, and the situation here, there is a general sense of insecurity with the flight being earlier being delayed, an unexpected delay, then two flights being merged into one, a 400-plus capacity plane flying from Kabul to Mazar Sharif with only 61 passengers on board. It would be flying back in full capacity. So this explains very much the situation, how grim the situation is, and how people are responding to it. The airlines, as I said, have raised the fare from Mazar to Kabul by double or triple the fare. So that can very well explain of how the situation is like here in Mazar Sharif. Yes.
Right, Anas. Also, what does this mean for the Indian nationals engaged in developmental work in Afghanistan going forward now?
Well, the Indian mission has said that they would want to evacuate. They are evacuating. In fact, there is a special flight that is going to be thrown out of Mazar Sharif tonight, which would be having those Indian nationals who are willingly wanting to go back to their home country, to their homeland. But those who would want to stay back, the Indian mission, the onus of that would lie on them. So that is something that has come through for now. But as I said, I can talk about how the city is like, and there is a general sense of insecurity. This is my third time in Mazar Sharif.
Right.
And overall, there is a general sense of insecurity. Yes.
Right. All right, Anas, do stay with us. I'm going back to Siddhant once again. Siddhant, thank you for staying with us. Now, in the Indian context, what does this mean for all the developmental work and all the investments that India has made in Afghanistan now that people are being brought back from Afghanistan?
Well, India has been involved in major infrastructure projects, the India-Afghanistan Friendship Dam or the Salma Dam in Herat province, the National Parliament in Kabul. These are major infrastructure projects, but once they are completed, they are handed over to the Afghan government. So it is the Afghan government's responsibility to take care of them. And of course, we have seen Taliban saying that they will be making sure that there is no damage to major infrastructure projects. But that is contrary to what is happening on the ground. We are seeing images of dams, infrastructure being being broken. Also remember that India is involved in a number of community projects in terms of capacity building as well, providing scholarship. India, of course, has been a major donor of the Afghan government of Afghanistan since the fall of Taliban in 2001, and since then emerged as a major partner. And also remember, amidst this turmoil, India has been leading the diplomatic front at the United Nations Security Council. There has been regular conversations between the two sides. In fact, the Afghan Foreign Minister Hanif Atmar had spoken to the Indian External Affairs Minister earlier this month, and after that the meeting happened, the UNSC meeting happened, because it's the Afghan side who had requested the Indian side for this special session of the United Nations Security Council. But the biggest worry for everyone, not only for New Delhi but for other global capitals, Beijing, Moscow, Tehran, European capitals or Washington, is what next, because nobody knows what's happening in Afghanistan now. There is an increased chances of civil war. The best case situation would have been a power sharing agreement between the Afghan government and Taliban, but the Taliban is saying that they do not recognize the Afghan government. They want Ashraf Ghani to go, and that is unlikely for the Afghan government to do so. So there is no chance of power sharing agreement as of now, and it looks like we are heading towards a full-blown civil war with gains of last 20 years in terms of the women's right, in terms of the minorities' right being undone. The images are already there. What the what the Taliban are doing to the various Afghan nationals in southern Afghanistan.
Right. Siddhant, do stay with us. Going back to Anas once again. Anas, thank you for staying with us. What does this mean for India's part in the Afghan-Taliban peace negotiations?
Well, at this point of time, it would be a bit uncertain because, as I said, the Taliban are closing in on the city. There are reports that they're about 10 kilometers from the city. So this is a clear indicator with the evacuation of Indian nationals that things are not well, and the Indian side anticipates that. Therefore, as a precautionary measure, they are going for this evacuation. In time to come, given that what Taliban's position has been, it would be very interesting to see how it pans out, because, as I said, not all of the Indian nationals would want to be evacuated, and the Indian mission would rather has been saying that those who would want to stay back would be staying back at their own risk.
Right.
Yes.
On that note, Anas, if there are people who do not wish to be evacuated, are there any measures in place to ensure their security in Afghanistan?
As we speak, it would be a bit too premature to comment on that, primarily because the announcement has just come in, but there are militias who are vowing to protect. There is the Afghan National Army who is bound to protect their soil, their cities, their provinces, and the people, of course. So that would be something to look out for, given that the militia of Ustad Hasanur, who we were expecting to put up a fight, if they're out there in the city, then the Taliban would be up for a tough resistance. As I said, they're about 10 to 12 kilometers from the city center, in the outskirts, near the main electricity station, from where so Afghanistan is dependent on the electricity supply coming in from Uzbekistan, and that actually goes up still all the way to Kabul. And there is a fight that is going on that is Police District 17 in the outskirts of the city. So as we say, as I talk to you, the Taliban are about 10 to 12 kilometers from the city center, and they are being put up a fight by the Afghan National Army and by the militias as well. Yes.
All right, Anas. Thank you for all those updates. Do stay with us. I'm going back to Siddhant once again. Siddhant, as you know, India has played a constructive role in Afghanistan. How do you see this relationship evolving now that this has happened?
Well, this relationship has a lot of positive attributes in terms of the convergences both the Afghan government and the Indian government has. There has been engagement in terms of infrastructure projects, in terms of capacity buildings, in terms of supporting the Afghan government, particularly in terms of making sure that the gains of last 20 years in terms of women's rights, minorities' rights are preserved. But nonetheless, now the situation is in flux. It looks like Afghanistan is heading towards a full-blown crisis, and the impact of of what happens in Afghanistan is going to have a major regional impact and a global impact as well. In terms of the regional impact, the big worry is, will it lead to an increase in terror activities, especially in the Union territory of Jammu and Kashmir, because we saw this eerie parallel how Taliban was there in Afghanistan and there was increase in terror activity in the then erstwhile state of Jammu and Kashmir. We also saw how IC-814 was hijacked from Kathmandu and taken to Kandahar. It was during the time when Taliban used to rule in Afghanistan. There were talks that there is a change of heart in Taliban. There is a new Taliban which we are dealing with, but that's not the case, particularly with the images coming from Afghanistan, worrisome images which the global leadership had condemned at the United Nations Security Council. In fact, what Taliban is looking for right now is legitimacy in case it gets the power in Kabul. But we know that at the United Nations Security Council debate, several countries had said that if Taliban tries to use force to come to power in Kabul, then it will not be recognized, and that means it will again become an isolated state and also leave Afghanistan into dark ages. We know that when Taliban used to rule Afghanistan in 1990s, there were only 3 countries which were recognizing the government in Kabul, which including the Pakistani government as well.
Right.
But largely now the dynamics has changed. Pakistan itself has been saying that it will be impacted by an Islamic emirate in Afghanistan. But when it comes to Pakistan, you never know what they speak, what they do. And right now, in fact, sanction Pakistan is one of the top trend in Afghanistan.
Right, right, Siddhant. Thank you for bringing that up, and I was going to come to that. Pakistan's role in this situation has been highlighted in the days leading up to this. What can you tell us about their role?
Well, Pakistan again is back playing its game of Jekyll and Hyde in terms of positive, in terms of negative. In fact, Pakistan has been condemned multiple times by the Afghan leadership. A short while ago, there was a release by the Afghan Foreign Ministry on the kidnapping of the daughter of the Afghan envoy. And of course, the Afghans are not happy with the investigations which Pakistan is leading. But nonetheless, we know that Pakistan is an epicenter of international terrorism. New Delhi has been highlighting it, Afghanistan has been highlighting it, and it's time that world needs to take a concrete action, and that is what both countries have been talking about.
Right. Anas, back to you. Same question to you, Anas. What do you think about their role in this entire situation, Pakistan's role?
Well, at this point of time, Pakistan says that it is playing a very critical role in the Afghan peace process. It is exercising its maximum leverage in the Afghan peace process. This is what the Pakistani side has maintained. The Pakistani foreign minister has been saying, or claiming rather, that the world now sees Pakistan as part of the solution and not part of the problem. This is what the Pakistani foreign minister has been maintaining. We've been seeing statements coming in from different quarters, including the Saudi foreign minister. We recently saw the visit of the Hungarian foreign minister to Islamabad, the UN General Secretary, the UN General Assembly Secretary, President as well, Volkan Bozkır. So we've seen that Pakistan's role has by and large been appreciated, minus from the Afghan side. They're the main stakeholders, and they still believe that Pakistan needs to do more. They need, and that has also been the line that has been told by the United States as well, that Pakistan needs to exercise more and more of its leverage. We've seen at least 28 visits by U.S. Special Envoy for Afghan peace, Azam Khalilzad, to Islamabad since his appointment. So there's been a lot of back and forth, and U.S. has been pressing Pakistan. On one hand, that Pakistan needs to exercise maximum leverage, where on the other hand, Pakistan says it is doing all what it can in order to ensure peace in Afghanistan. Yes.
Right, Anas. Also, Siddhant mentioned this as well. Afghanistan accuses Pakistan of not sharing the information with the Afghan delegation visiting Islamabad regarding the probe of abduction of the ambassador's daughter. How do you assess that?
From the Pakistani Foreign Minister Shamim Qureshi in Islamabad, which I heard, and he said that Pakistan has shared all the data which has been there, and including the CCTV footages. And he said that unfortunately, if I were to quote the Pakistani Foreign Minister, it does not corroborate with the account that Silsila Alisal, the daughter of Afghan ambassador Najib Alisal, was kidnapped or abducted or even tortured. The Afghan side, on the other hand, has maintained that the police, the medical legal reports and the police reports and inside the hospital reports also corroborate what the claim has been. There's been a lot of back and forth on that. There's been a lot of blame game rather, and the Pakistani side has been maintaining that it has been putting out all-out evidence. The Pakistani side says that it would want to further investigate the daughter of the ambassador. There has been a series of allegations as well in the Pakistani media, and the Afghan side clearly seems not convinced with what Pakistan is saying, and vice versa. Pakistan also not seems convinced with what the Afghan side is saying. Yes.
All right, Anas, thank you so much for joining us from Mazar-e-Sharif, and also Siddhant, thank you so much for joining us from New Delhi for all the latest on this. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.